You ever notice how once you hit 40, people start calling every cool thing you do a midlife crisis? Buy a motorcycle? Midlife crisis. Grow a beard? Midlife crisis. Take a weekend trip without checking your email? Clearly, he's spiraling. But what if that motorcycle isn't about running away from life? What if it's about finally living it on your terms? Listen, this is not a video about young men's hobbies. This is about why riding a motorcycle after 40 hits differently. Mentally, physically, emotionally, and even spiritually. We're talking clearer heads, stronger backs, sometimes, better friendships, and moments that remind you who the hell you were before your life got so loud. So if you've ever looked at a motorcycle and thought, is it too late for me? Stick around, because I promise you, this isn't a crisis, it's a comeback. And quick warning, this is a bit of a touchy-feely video, so buckle up and let's ride. I've been riding since I was 12. Dirt bikes, street bikes, cruisers, you name it. Two wheels weren't just something I rode, they were part of who I was. But somewhere along the way, life happened. Career, mortgage, kids, responsibilities. Somewhere along the way, riding took a back seat. I always told myself I'd ride again soon. Then soon turned into a couple of years. The gear got dusty, the garage got filled with lawn tools, and I got lost in the noise. Honestly, I stopped recognizing the guy in the mirror. I felt stuck, heavy, no pun intended, tired all the time. Not just physically, but in my soul, if that makes sense. Then something unexpected happened. My kids, now grown, got into motorcycles. I didn't push it, they just found it on their own. I mean, it helps that I had bikes sitting in the garage just collecting dust, but one day, out of nowhere, my son goes, "Hey Dad, you want to go for a ride?" And man, something about that moment just lit a fuse. I pulled out the old gloves, I dusted off the helmet, and when I twisted that throttle again for the first time in a couple of years, it's like I was flipping a switch that I'd forgotten existed. And here's the thing that people don't understand, especially people that throw around that tired midlife crisis line. This wasn't a crisis. This was coming back to life. Riding again didn't just reconnect me with my kids. It reconnected me with me. The version of me I thought got buried under tax deadlines, office politics, and weekend errands. That's why this video exists. Not to defend motorcycling after 40, but to celebrate what it can do for someone who forgot what joy feels like. So if you're out there thinking, is it too late to ride again? Or too late to start? Or wondering why this old obsession still tugs at your heart? Stick with me, because this isn't a breakdown, it's a breakthrough. And motorcycles, they just happen to be the best therapy I've ever found. So let's talk about why riding after 40 or 50 or even 60 doesn't mean you're losing it. It means you're finally finding it again. Here's what they don't tell you about hitting your later years. You wake up one day and you realize you've been living on autopilot. You're doing all the things you're supposed to do, working hard, paying bills, raising kids, mowing the lawn, but something's missing. You're surviving, not living. That was me for years. I had a garage full of tools, a calendar full of obligations, and a heart that felt empty. I didn't even realize how far I drifted from myself. And then, out of nowhere, riding came back into my life. Through my kids. They started talking about bikes, watching videos, sending me Cycle Trader links, even wanting to take the MSF course and get their license. And then one day my son asked me about the old Vulcan I used to ride him to middle school on when he was little. Man, I hadn't thought about that in years. That conversation turned into a trip to the dealership just to look at all the bikes, which turned into a Sunday ride, which turned into something I didn't know I needed so badly. Those first rides back weren't about thrill. They weren't about some rebellious buy a bike to feel young moment. It was quiet, centering, like coming home. And I think a lot of us in our 40s, 50s, and 60s, we start to feel that pull. Maybe your kids are grown and the house is quiet. Maybe your career's stable, but uninspiring. Or maybe you're just tired of the same four walls and the same four streaming services. Whatever it is, something inside starts whispering, there's got to be more than this. And for some of us, that more is found on two wheels. It's the freedom, the focus, the feeling of doing something just for you again. And if you're watching this and nodding quietly, yeah, I feel that, then let me tell you, you're not crazy. You're not having a breakdown. You're having a breakthrough. Writing doesn't fix everything, but it sure reminds you of who you were before the world told you who you had to be. And sometimes that's all it takes to start living again. You know what's wild? I didn't realize just how much of myself I had buried under work, stress, and routine until I started writing again. It wasn't just about getting on the bike. It was about what happened after the ride. The mental fog started to lift. The irritability, that began to fade. Even my posture literally started changing. There's something about riding that resets you. When you're on a bike, it's just you and the road. No email pings, no small talk, no scrolling, just the rumble of the engine, the wind across your helmet, and a focus so pure it feels like meditation with horsepower. That's not just poetic talk either. There's real science behind it. UCLA did a study last year that found that riding a motorcycle for 20 minutes can increase heart rate by 11% and adrenaline levels by 27%, similar to light exercise, and that it actually reduces stress biomarkers and increases alertness by up to 27% as well. It's like your brain finally gets to breathe, and it's not just mental, it's physical too. At 20, I rode like a lunatic. Today, I stretch before I swing a leg over the saddle. I hydrate, I ride smarter, but here's the funny part. I feel better. Riding forces you to be in your body. It keeps your reflexes sharp, your core engaged, and your senses wide open. It makes you present. And man, after years of being pulled in every direction, that kind of presence feels like a superpower. But maybe the biggest change? It's how I show up when I'm off the bike. After a ride, I'm more focused, more patient. I laugh a little bit more. I listen more to my kids. It's like I come back a better version of myself. Because for those few hours on the road, I remember who that guy actually is. Look, I'm not saying motorcycles are magic, but I am saying that they woke something up in me that I thought was gone for good. And if you're watching this, wondering what it feels like to find that kind of clarity again in your 40s and 50s, let me tell you, it's not too late. You don't have to reinvent yourself. You just have to remember yourself. And sometimes all it takes is a throttle and an open road. Here's something you learn real fast when you start riding again in your later years. You don't ride the same way you did at 22, and that's a good thing. Back then, I thought speed was the point, leaning into corners like I was invincible, riding from sunrise to sunset without even thinking about hydration or back support. My only concern was gas money and how loud my exhaust sounded. These days, I still love the ride, but now I ride with my head just as much as my heart. I check the forecast the night before. I gear up like I'm prepping for a lunar landing. I have a favorite aftermarket seat, and I've never been prouder to admit that I own heated gloves. Because riding after 40, it's not about proving anything. It's about enjoying everything. I take more breaks. I enjoy the views. I actually care about whether the seat height fits my knees, and I no longer treat traffic like it's a video game. I treat it like what it is, a battlefield that I'm trying to navigate home from safely. That doesn't mean I've slowed down into boredom. It means I've matured into presence. I savor the curves. I don't attack them. I ride smooth. I ride smart. I ride deliberately. And yeah, sometimes I wear gear that makes me look like a Power Ranger on vacation, but you know what? I'd rather look like a tactical goofball and walk away from a slide than look cool and end up in a hospital gown. The funny part? My kids, who are now in their 20s, they call me the safety guy. They poke fun at my advice and my prep and my rules, but in a playful way. But they also say, Dad, you ride better than anyone I know. And that means something. Because coming back to riding didn't just give me joy. It gave me wisdom and a second chance to do it right. So no, I don't ride like I used to. I ride better. When I first got back into riding, I did what a lot of folks do after some time off. I chased what I used to love. In my case, that meant a loud, low-slung, fire-breathing performance cruiser. Fast, flashy, more torque than I'd ever reasonably use, and not a shred of comfort in sight. And look, it scratched the itch for a while. But the more I rode, the more I realized this wasn't me anymore. Not really. See, back in the day, I rode solo a lot. But now, my wife comes along for the ride a decent percentage of the time. And 2-up on that bike felt like strapping a passenger to a bar stool on a jackhammer. Not exactly bonding over the back roads. So I started doing the homework. I watched the reviews, I talked to some touring riders, and one night I stumbled across a listing for a Kawasaki Vulcan 1700 Nomad. A bike I'd always kind of leaned toward in the past, but just wasn't mentally there yet. Big windshield, floorboards, passenger backrest that looked like a recliner, and bags you could live out of. It was like a rolling couch, but with soul. And I just knew that was it. That was our bike. The only problem? It was 12 hours away in Wisconsin. So I loaded up, drove across 3 states, and I brought her home. And the first time my wife climbed on the back, settled into that big passenger seat and said, "Oh wow, this is nice," that's when I knew. This wasn't about going fast anymore. It was about going far together. But it's funny how life teaches you that lesson over and over. Because around the same time, I'd convinced myself I needed something sleek, refined, and successful in a vehicle. So I traded my old vehicle for a shiny Audi luxury SUV with a blackout package, leather seats, touchscreens, crazy amp and subwoofer sound system, the whole 9 yards. And it looked good, man. I looked good for about 6 months. Then I found myself needing to haul 3 bikes to Daytona, or go pick up lumber, or bags of mulch, or drive through mud. And suddenly, I'm looking at this luxury bubble thinking, what am I doing? This isn't me. I need a truck. And I'd never been a truck guy. It took a year and way too much depreciation for me to admit it. I didn't want luxury. I wanted useful. I wanted me. So yeah, coming back to riding teaches you about motorcycles, but it also teaches you about yourself. You stop buying for ego. You start buying for fit. Because at this stage in life, it's not about status or what turns heads at a gas station. Okay, maybe it is a little bit. But it's about what feels right in your gut. What makes you smile when you see it in the driveway. What you'll drive 12 hours to pick up because you just know it's yours. And whether it's a bike, a truck, or just a slower pace of life, when you start choosing based on who you really are, not who you're trying to impress, that's when everything clicks. And that's a perfect segue. Timit nose means know thyself. It's one of those phrases that sounds really profound when you're young, but doesn't really land until you've been through something. And man, did it take me a while. I did everything they told me to do. Borrowed a mountain of money. I pushed myself through college. I stacked up degrees like they were trophies. I clawed my way up the corporate ladder until I was sitting at an executive chair at a Fortune 500 IT company at a very young age. Title, money, bonuses, luxury cars, travel, respect. I met and exceeded every goal I'd ever set for myself. And I was absolutely miserable. I don't say that for sympathy. This isn't a pity party. I say it because I think a lot of people are quietly living that same story. On the surface, I had made it. But inside, I was unraveling. The stress, constant. The pressure, relentless. And the joy, gone. And over time, it showed. My mental health went first, and then my physical health followed. It wasn't just burnout. It was like I'd spent years climbing a ladder, only to realize it was leaning against the wrong wall. And because of all of that, when I finally fell, I hit every single rung on the way down. That's when I had to face something uncomfortable. I'd been chasing other people's definitions of success my whole life. And yeah, I got really good at it. But I was building a life for someone I wasn't. It took years to see it, even longer to admit it. And then motorcycles came back into my life, not as a hobby, not as an escape, but as a mirror. And it seems like a lot of people out there have one of these stories. I've seen so many of you comment on my videos with them. You know the kind, how riding a motorcycle saved my life. And I could make a whole video just on that. It's not hyperbole, but not today. You see, riding reconnected me with who I used to be before titles and job offers and performance reviews. It brought me back to the version of myself who felt right in his own skin. And when my kids got into riding, that sealed it. Because suddenly, I wasn't just riding towards something, I was riding with someone. The conversations we had on those long rides, the laughter, the shared silence, the sense of being present together. It wasn't just healing, it was clarifying. I realized I didn't need to choose between success and self. I just needed to redefine what success meant on my terms. So yeah, I'm still successful. I'm still working, still building. But now I know who I am while I'm doing it. And that's what this whole journey has been about. Not starting over, not burning it all down, just coming home to the person I was always supposed to be. So if you're feeling stuck, if you're wondering why life feels heavy, even when it looks good from the outside, let me leave you with this. You can be smart, you can be accomplished, you can be respected, and still be completely disconnected from yourself. But it's never too late to change that. Know thyself. And if the road helps you find the answer, twist that throttle and don't look back. When I was younger, riding was mostly a solo thing for me. I'd hop on the bike, take off, disappear into the wind, and not think twice about who else was out there. But coming back to motorcycling later in life, man, the community, it hits different. It's not just about the bikes anymore. It's about the people. I'll give you an example. First week after picking up the Nomad, I rolled into this little gas station off the highway. It's the kind of place with old faded signs and coffee that tastes like it's been brewing since 1997. There's this guy parked across from me with this big giant Goldwing on a custom trailer. Gray beard flowing in the wind like he's Gandalf on vacation. He looks over and he gives me a nod. You know the one. And next thing I know, we're 30 minutes into conversation talking about road trips, gear hacks, and how to convince your wife to take longer trips with you. And here's what's wild. That kind of thing keeps happening. Riders pulling up next to me in the parking lot. Folks at rallies who treat you like family before you've even swapped names. It's not ego. It's not one-upmanship. It's respect, especially amongst the 40 and up crowd. We've been through some stuff, and we're not trying to show off anymore. We're trying to connect. And it's not just other guys either. The number of women I've met, solo riders, couples, moms who got their license at 50, it's inspiring. There's this unspoken bond among older riders that says, yeah, we get it. Life's been loud, and this is where we can breathe. And riding with my kids, that took the community to a whole new level. We're not just a family anymore. We're a riding crew. We share routes, we plan rides, dream about cool bikes. We laugh, we yell over the intercoms, we argue about who left their blinker on for the last 5 miles. It's the kind of time together that means something deep down. Because when you're rolling down the road side by side with someone, especially someone you really care about, there's this rhythm that happens. And that rhythm sticks with you after the ride's over. So yeah, the bikes are great, but the people, the conversations, the connections, that's the real ride. There's something about getting back into riding later in life that shifts your perspective. When I was a kid, riding was just fun. When I was in my 20s, it was freedom. But now, in my early 50s and beyond, it's starting to feel like legacy. And I don't mean legacy like passing down an old bike, although that's certainly part of it. I mean legacy as in who you are when you ride and what that says to people around you, especially the ones who matter most. I remember the first time my youngest son and I went out on a proper day ride together, just the two of us, intercom crackling, sun coming up behind us. We didn't say much. We didn't need to. But when we pulled off at this overlook, took off our helmets, and looked out over the trees, he just nodded as if to say, "Thanks for getting me into this, Dad." That one exchange, it hit harder than anything in years. Because it wasn't just a ride. It was a moment. It was a connection. A passing of something that goes deeper than machines and miles. The same thing with my oldest son. Watching him get geared up, seeing the way he handles his bike, the pride in his stance. It's like seeing a piece of myself reflected back, but sharper, stronger, and more independent. Look, this isn't about raising bikers. It's about raising people who feel what riding gives you. Confidence, calm, curiosity, and clarity. And even if your kids don't ride, maybe it's a niece, a nephew, or a neighbor. You still have that opportunity, because when you ride, people notice. You become the one who's still doing something, still living, still seeking, and that sticks with people. And one day they might pull you aside and say, I've been thinking about riding too. How did you get started? And you'll smile, because you know it's not about how you start, it's about how you come back. That's the legacy. Not just the rides you take, but who you become because of them. And maybe, just maybe, who you inspire to take the handlebars next. All right, let's settle this once and for all. Buying a motorcycle after 40, or getting back on two wheels after some time away, riding off into the sunset with your wife behind you and your kids riding beside you. That's not a midlife crisis. That's a midlife comeback. This whole midlife crisis thing, that's just a lazy label. It's what people say when they don't understand what it's like to wake up one day and realize you've been drifting, that you've traded adventure for autopilot, that you've been checking boxes instead of chasing joy. So when they see someone your age, my age, choosing to feel alive again instead of slowly fading into the background, they call it a crisis because it challenges the script. But you and I both know it's not about rebellion. It's about returning. Returning to who you were before the stress and the spreadsheets, before the PTA meetings and mortgage rates, and forgetting your own birthday because you were too busy remembering everyone else's. For me, it was coming back to something that was always part of me. Not a phase, not a thrill-seeking impulse, a core part of my identity that had gotten buried under everything else. And the moment I sat back in the saddle again, the moment my wife climbed on the back and we took off together, the first time I rode with my kids and realized we weren't just bonding, we were building something. That's when it really hit me. This isn't me losing it. This is me finding it. Finding presence. And remembering that I'm not done writing my story yet. Not even close. So no, it's not a midlife crisis. It's a midlife reboot. And if that scares people, that's on them. Because for me, this is the clearest I've ever seen the road. So maybe you've been thinking about it. Maybe you've got a helmet in your closet, or a license that's a little bit dusty, or a dream that never quite went away. Or maybe you're already back in the saddle, rediscovering that same spark that I did, one ride at a time. Either way, I'd love to hear your story. Seriously, drop a comment below. Tell me how you started riding, or how you came back to it. Tell me what changed, what surprised you, what you're riding now, or what you hope to ride soon. Because this whole thing, it's not just about motorcycles. It's about people like you and me, finding joy, connection, and a little bit of ourselves again, 1 mile at a time. And if this video hits home for you, even just a little, do me a favor, give it a thumbs up. Maybe share it with a buddy who's been on the fence about getting back out there. I've got more stories to share, and I've certainly got more lessons to learn. And the road, she's still calling.
Leave the light on.
Send out a crack, Luke.
Leave the light on.
Currently, while I wait.
Just leave the light on. Yeah, leave the light on. If I'll ever change, been dreaming of Nashville, Tennessee, while the cold here in I got better shit to think about than that shit. Like deadlines, rent's due, bills pile up, family day in, day out, the clock's mocking me, getting old, oh God, the kids deserve so much more than this, gotta get rich. You said I never could, ever could change. I thought I never could, ever could change. They said I never could, ever could change. Damn right, I never would.